Hey, Judge, Miss Patterson is back on and can hear us now if you wanted to talk to her.
All right, Ms. Patterson, this is Judge Graham. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Mr. Meza has asked for a continuance so that he be allowed to apply for a court-appointed attorney. You likewise have the right to an attorney. If you can't afford an attorney, you have the right to ask that the court consider whether or not you're entitled to a court-appointed attorney. Do you want to do that?
Really, I was just hoping to discuss with you because, okay, so can I talk to you, Judge Graham, just like me by myself right now?
No, ma'am, you can't. I can only talk to you when we're in court with everyone involved in the case present, and that's not going to happen today because we're going to take this hearing up next Wednesday. Do you want to ask? Do you want to ask for an attorney before we could come back next Wednesday?
I mean, I don't really need an attorney, but do y'all appoint one or?
Yes, if you fill out paperwork and if you qualify, then I appoint you an attorney at no cost to you. I would strongly suggest that you take advantage of that.
Okay.
Has anyone given you the paperwork to fill out to get an attorney?
No, I really wasn't accepting paperwork because I thought that we could discuss things at the hearing, and not drag the process out or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not how this process works. So let me give you a phone number. You can either get with anybody from St. Francis or the department, or you can call my office and
can I call your office?
Can you what?
Can I call your office?
Yeah, all you can call for is to get the paperwork. You can't discuss the case with my office. We only do that when we're in court. So you got something to write on?
Ms. Patterson, do you have an email address?
I do.
Okay, I can just email that form to you. That might be easier.
Right.
This whole thing is not very easy, really, on the cool. I've just been waiting for this hearing so we could discuss some issues, and it's just you know what I'm saying?
Ms. Patterson, we're not going to discuss it today. I've told you that 3 times now.
I thought this was
get something to write about. Ms. Patterson, get something to write on, and I'm going to give you my office phone number, and you can call and talk to Miss Morrow about how to get the paperwork to fill out.
Dick, bitch. That's what the fuck you do. Hold on, let me get.
Would you mind giving her my email instead?
Would who mind?
Me, Haley. Would you mind giving her?
Haley, if you want that broadcast over YouTube.
Well, I can get it. I can put ourselves in a breakout room.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Okay. I don't.
Are y'all listening? What did I have a pen and paper?
Patterson, I invited you to a breakout room. If you'll accept it, I can. Okay.
Ms. Schulte is with us for the department. Mr. Valdez is with us for CASA. Ms. Kincaid is with us representing the children. Ms. Smith is with us representing the father. Mr. Barboza, who is with her, I believe. Mr. Jackson's with us representing the mother, Ms. Barboza, who I show is incarcerated in a federal facility.
I call Jennifer Campos.
Okay.
Where are the children currently placed?
Alize and Azalee are placed with their aunt Destiny, and Rick and Fabian are placed with their great-grandmother Amelia.
Do we have approved home studies on those placements?
Yes, ma'am.
How are the children doing in those placements?
They're doing very well. The girls, have attached to their aunt, which their family. So, they're doing very well. The boys are doing very well. They say they like living with their grandma. They're playing. I mean, they're just normal boys. So they're doing good.
Are they all placed in the Hereford area?
Yes, ma'am.
It's summer. How did the children end the school year?
They did good. They all passed. I do think that Fabian had to go to summer school because he didn't pass the STAR test, but I'm not sure. He just told me that he had to go to summer school.
Are any of the children on any psychotropic medication?
Alize is, yes.
Has that been reviewed in the last 90 days?
Yes.
And has that medication been discussed with her in an age-appropriate way?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it seem to be helping her?
Yes.
Are any of the other children on any psychotropic medications?
No, ma'am.
Do we have any medical concerns for any of the other children?
No, ma'am.
What is the current permanency goal in this case?
Family reunification.
Does that continue to be in the best interest of the children?
Yes, ma'am.
Desiree Barboza will be incarcerated in federal prison throughout the life of this case. Is that correct?
Correct.
Are there any services, to your knowledge, that she has access to or has been able to work on while she's been incarcerated?
Not to my knowledge. I did write her a letter and asked her if there was any services there that they provide or anything like that, but I have not heard from her.
Has Mr. Barboza engaged in services?
Yes, ma'am.
Has he been having visitation with the children?
Yes, ma'am.
Who supervises that visitation?
Her name is Annette Hart. She's our, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say it's supervised by St. Francis, not by
Yes,
Lakeland.
sorry, yes.
You're okay. How often is that visitation?
They have visits every Thursday for 2 hours.
How do those visits go?
They go very well. I have not been made aware of any issues that go on within the visits. So as far as I know, they go very well.
Has there been an issue with one of the children not wanting to attend visits?
Yes, ma'am. Alize.
Is Alize in counseling right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that being addressed in counseling?
Yes.
Do we have any therapeutic recommendations or kind of insight into that at this time?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Has Mr. Barboza completed parenting classes?
Yes, ma'am.
Has he maintained contact with you?
Yes, he has.
Does he have stable housing and employment?
Yes, ma'am, he does.
Has he completed an assessment with ACADA?
No, we are actually still working on that. ACADA no longer exists. So Senacor took over, and we were told that those are just for like AA meetings. I mean, he can attend an AA meeting if he wants to, but the assessment, we have not been able to get services for that.
Do we have any current concerns about substance abuse regarding Mr. Barboza?
No, ma'am.
Has he completed anger control training?
Yes, he has.
Has he completed individual counseling?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it true the only service he's still working on is batterer's intervention?
Yes, ma'am. And I believe he only has 3 or 4 classes left. He doesn't have very many.
Because he is so close to being finished with his services, have you staffed what increased visitation and or a return home might look like?
No, ma'am, I have not staffed. I have not staffed those with my supervisor or director.
What is the continuing danger to the children being placed back with Mr. Barboza at this time?
I think that he understands, what happened and stuff like that. He's taking accountability. I don't really see a danger of putting them back in the home, because he has taken accountability. I just, I want to make sure that he knows what he has to do to make sure he is free of a violent home.
Do we have any notes or provider recommendations from his BIP class?
No, ma'am. They just send us how many classes he's attended, and like they check off on there if he's taken accountability or if he's blamed, if they blame the victim or anything like that, and they've all been accountability on his part.
Do we specifically have concerns for Alize being returned to him if she is not willing to even go to visitation with him?
Yes. I feel that if the issues aren't addressed with her, that she could fall back and self-harm herself, or start self-harming again and stuff like that. So yes, ma'am.
Has Alize had problems with self-harm in the past?
Yes.
Have you discussed with the children the possibility of return to their dad?
I have brought it
Do you know
up.
if the kids?
They have expressed that they do want to go back home. Alize is the only one that hasn't really expressed if she does or doesn't, but everybody else has expressed that they want to go back home.
Do you think that family therapy would be beneficial in making sure any possible return is successful?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that something that St. Francis is going to look at setting up?
Yes.
Are there any services that Mr. Barboza needs to engage in that he has not?
No, ma'am.
Is there anything else that you feel the court needs to know about him or his progress in services?
No, ma'am.
Are you asking the court to maintain the current placement of the children?
Yes, ma'am.
And to continue the department as temporary managing conservator?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness.
Briefly, Your Honor. Ma'am, I just need to recap. You said, it's my understanding, the boys are with their great-grandmother, Amelia,
Correct.
and the girls are with an aunt.
Yes.
What is her first name?
Destiny.
I think that you wrote in your report that Desiree has been in contact with you, either writing or having her sisters make contact with you. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
They've been consistent with that?
I actually have not heard from them in probably about a month and a half. When I did my last visit, I did ask, and at that time, Desiree had been moving from place to place to get to her current place where she's currently incarcerated at.
Okay. Do you know the facility she's currently incarcerated at?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that you knew that. I'm not sure when she was transferred over to a facility in Tallahassee, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure when that took place, but you understand that it kind of takes a while after that transfer for them to get settled in before they can figure out what is and what's not available to them as far as services.
Right. Yes. And I just wrote her a letter when I found out where she was at. So I know it's going to take some time.
Okay. All right. I'll pass the witness.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Campos, are you satisfied with my client's progress in the services?
I am. Yes.
And you've testified that you don't have any concern of alcohol or substance abuse at this time?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You've testified that you haven't staffed with your supervisor about additional visitation or unsupervised visitation. Will you be doing that soon?
Yes, ma'am. I will be.
From your observation of this case, what do you think would be best?
I think that with visits, are you talking about with visits or just within the whole case? With visits, I think that he should be able to have, at least 4 hours of unsupervised visits. That way we can work towards closer to reunification. That way he has a better, or not a better understanding, but that way he's able to be with his kids alone, and not, and be able to take them other places besides certain places.
Do you think that Alize might be more interested in visitation if they were able to go do things as opposed to supervised visits in your office?
Possibly.
When do you anticipate that you will staff on this?
Next week, I will actually email my director and my supervisor after the hearing and see if we can get it staffed next week.
Okay. And would you be able to address the suggestion that there should be family therapy at that time so we can get that started if it's necessary?
Yes, ma'am.
Pass the witness.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kincaid.
Thank you, Your Honor. Are the children up to date on their medical care?
Yes, ma'am.
Are they up to date on their dental?
Yes.
Okay, and Alize is on a psychotropic medication,
Yes, ma'am.
and that's being regularly monitored by her, by a medical professional?
Yes.
Okay. Have you discussed with her therapist or counselor, what would be the best way to begin visitation for Alize?
I have not. I will be contacting her on Monday and to see if she has any recommendations.
Okay, do you think that it would be in Alize's best interest to follow the therapist's recommendations as to visitation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Also, I dropped off briefly, so I'm not sure if this was addressed, but since the last hearing, did one of the children make an outcry about a previous placement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that was Rick, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and was that investigated?
Yes, ma'am. It was by our RCCI, and we actually have a staffing next week to see what they found out. But what I was told was whenever they were bridged is that they did not make any outcries or anything like that. So I don't know what their plans are.
Okay, can you be sure to let me know the results of whatever investigation you guys staff?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And are the children currently receiving visitation with one another?
Yes, they see each other often, like every day.
Okay, and those interactions go well?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any needs that placement has brought to your attention that the department could assist with?
Not to my attention. They have not. But when I go visit, I make sure I ask. So, I always let them know if they need anything to please let me know. So, and they also can do that with kinship or CASA.
Okay. Do you think it would be contrary to the children's best interest to be returned to their father today?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
All right, anyone have further questions for Ms. Campos?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I've got a few questions. Ms. Campos, do you know what Ms. Barboza is incarcerated for? What offense?
She is incarcerated for
It was
drugs.
drug charge.
She transporting drugs from Mexico to Texas.
Okay, all right. Okay, next, this case began with allegations about Mr. Barboza as far as domestic violence to the mother when he was drinking. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Has Mr. Barboza ever been alcohol tested during the pendency of this case?
No, sir.
Okay, don't you think that's something that should have been done if apparently the domestic violence involved alcohol use?
Yes, sir.
And the Department of St. Francis can have him alcohol tested, can't they?
Yes.
Okay. I think you've already said Alize sees a counselor. Is the counselor aware of the fact that she now says she doesn't want to see her father, but won't really give a reason why?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And have you had any notes from Alize's counselor that?
I have not had any notes or anything from her. No, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay, then, anyone else have other questions for Ms. Campos? Okay, then, Ms. Schulte, do you have any other witnesses?
No additional witnesses.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jackson, any witnesses?
No, sir.
Ms. Smith, witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, and Ms. Kincaid, witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Kincaid, recommendations?
Continue the department as temporary managing conservator, and continue current placement. The children seem to be happy with their relatives. I would suggest that we follow therapist recommendations as to Alizé's visitation with her father.
Okay. All right, Mr. Valdez, Casa, have anything else to add?
No, police placement's a great place for the children right now. We do hope that we can start family therapy just to bridge the relationships between everyone. We kind of, Ms. Campos and I spoke about it, try to get the counselor that comes to our office to do family therapy, but I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet. So getting those things started.
Okay. Okay, then based on what I've heard today, I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator, continue the children's current placements. I'll order that Mr. Barbosa's visitation with the children be as recommended by each child's therapist. And what I mean by that, I've got the problem with Alizé. If the other children are saying they want to go home, I would assume then they would like to start unsupervised visits. If the 3 youngest children, if the therapists for those kids don't have any problem with it, then I don't have any problem with it. I don't want to cut Alizé out and make her feel different, but I'd like to hear from her therapist if there's a recommendation that would not be good for her to start unsupervised visits with Mr. Barbosa. If the therapist says I don't think it would hurt, then he's progressed enough that I think he should have unsupervised visits, unless it would be contrary to Alizé's best interest. That's the best way I can explain it. I don't want to make her feel like she's being treated differently, but if she feels strongly that she's not ready or if she doesn't want to visit Mr. Barbosa, period, then she probably would not want to have unsupervised visits. So I'm going to leave that up to the experts. I'm going to order that family therapy begin as soon as possible for all the children and Mr. Barbosa. That would include Alizé, and again, unless the therapist can give me a good reason why that's not beneficial for her. And I don't know, based on Ms. Campos' testimony, if there's any type of drug or alcohol evaluation, I want Mr. Barbosa to do it, since alcohol was part of the original concern. And if there is any type of drug and alcohol evaluation like we used to do ocurrs, so forth, then I want him to have that and to follow any recommendations made. And then just to be safe, it's getting a little late. I'm just for Friday afternoon, but I'm going to order that Mr. Barbosa submit to any alcohol screening as requested by either St. Francis or the department. Obviously, a lot of facilities close down at noon on Friday, and obviously alcohol as opposed to drugs, you don't have to not drink very long before you don't show positive for alcohol. So that will just be that he will test if requested to. Okay, then I'll set the next hearing for October 27th, 2023. And again, if the therapists for the children, if they say we're ready to start unsupervised visits, maybe for 3 or maybe all 4 children, then you don't need to come back to me to get an order. If that's what they recommend, let's get that unsupervised visitation started. Okay, the hearing on October 27th, you can go on the court's online docket a day or so in advance. Are the kids out of the room?
Yeah, they went outside.
Okay. All right, then I can't remember now if I've even called the case.
No, sir, you have not.
Okay. We're here on a motion filed by the mother, Ms. Lopez. That's a motion for unsupervised visits and to expedite the home reunification. For the record, Mr. Alvey's with us for the department. Ms. Nelson and Ms. Alexander are with us for CASA. Ms. Grant is with us as the children's attorney. Mr. Jackson's with us representing the mother, Ms. Lopez, who is with him. Mr. Tambunga is not with us, and he is not in the waiting room. And we're trying to get a hold of Mr. Michelson, his attorney, right now. So we're going to give that a minute, and then we will get started on our hearing. Have you had any contact with your client, Travis Tambunga?
Mr. Tambunga has not contacted me, and I've not been able to contact him.
Okay. All right. Well, for the record, that's what we're here on. Have you seen the motion?
Yes, I have.
Okay. All right. So we are going to start that hearing. For the record, I've spoken with the children as well as Ms. Grant, their lawyer, and we had the 2 CASA people with us today. And so we had Ms. Tyler and Ms. Nelson. So we've all talked to the kiddos, and we're ready to go ahead and proceed with our hearing. So, Mr. Jackson, this is your motion, so you can call your first witness.
Your Honor, I will call Stephen Jennings. I believe
All right.
he's in a breakout.
I'm sorry, what?
I believe he's in a breakout or in a waiting room.
He's in the waiting room.
Okay. How did you come to know those kids?
They were referred to me for family counseling or therapeutic visitation with their mother, Maria Lopez, through St. Francis Ministries, or CPS.
Okay. And you had seen them on a number of occasions, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And during that time that you had seen them, as you went along with them, you made progress reports on those times that you saw them, right?
That's correct.
And then all of those progress reports were put into an evaluation treatment report. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I've sent you over my motion with your report attached to it. Is that correct?
Correct.
And this report that is attached to it, is this a report that you keep in your usual course and scope of your business?
Yes, sir.
And is that your signature on this report?
It is.
And has this report been altered in any way?
No, it has not.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask the court to take judicial notice of this report, and it was filed on June 20th of 2023.
All right, any objections?
No objection.
Okay, and for the record, that was attached to Mr. Jackson's motion. I did not read it since it had not been admitted into evidence, so I will admit it at this time. I guess we don't need to call it Petitioner's Exhibit 1 necessarily. We'll just, I'm admitting into evidence the, let me get the exact name, the Evaluation Treatment Report and Monthly Progress Report dated June 5th, 2023, that is attached to Mr. Jackson's motion that we're here on today.
So, Dr. Jennings, when is the first time that you had encountered this family?
Okay, so initially I encountered Miss Maria Lopez on 8/17 of 2022 for individual therapy with her. In regards to the entire family, the first time I saw them together was April 13th of 2023 to begin supervised visitation, therapeutic visitation, if you will.
Okay. On that April 13th of 2023 visit, was there anything unusual about that visit that day?
Well, on that day, the foster mother brought the children in, and the children were very nervous, having their biological mother and the foster mother in my reception area. They kept looking to foster mom for sort of direction, if you will, and foster mom requested of me to go into my office privately and speak to me. She stated that she felt—
Objection, Your Honor. What the foster mom stated, that would be hearsay even under these circumstances.
Sustain.
Okay. Let me ask it this way. As Dr. Jennings, as far as what you did you observe the kids and their mother together that day on April 13th?
Yes, sir, I did.
What did you observe?
I observed that when they walked in the room, they said, "Foster mom says we don't have to live with you." Then they, after they said that, mom said, "That's okay. We don't have to talk about that. Let's play." And they went over and gave their mom a hug. They began playing some different board games at different times. You know, if the children disagreed with each other, Miss Lopez would redirect them. Several of them at different times would crawl up in her lap and give her a hug, tell her they love her. After the end of the session, she gave them all a hug goodbye, and they all said they love each other, and the children left.
Would it be a fair statement to say that the kids warmed up to their mother?
Oh, yes, very much so.
And you had an occasion, this visit that we're talking about here was on April the 13th. Your next visit was on April the 20th, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you saw them again on April 26th.
Correct.
And then again on May the 4th.
Correct.
And then again on May the 11th.
That's correct.
And then again on May 25th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then again on 6/1 of 23, June 1st.
That's correct.
Okay. So you have your notes in front of you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything about any of these visits that stands out to you as far as their progress is concerned, as far as Maria and the kids' progress?
Well, the progress was that each time they came in, they would say, "Oh, foster mom wants us to tell you, we don't have to go live with her." They would always say that. And after that was, acknowledged, then they would enjoy playing with their mom. Mom always brought them food. They always hugged mom. A couple of times they got tearful and, so when are we going home? And it was clear to me they were growing closer and closer to mom. They trusted her. They asked her to fix things, to help with things. If they were playing a game, if there was a disagreement, they would immediately go to mom for direction and support. Mom just was becoming closer and closer with the children.
Okay. Now, you had talked about a comment that was being made on each visit about the foster mom. Did you have an occasion to observe the kids with foster mom at the front of the visit and their behavior versus their behavior once they got with Maria in your counseling session? Was there a distinction in that behavior?
Yes, sir, there was.
What did you observe?
I observed that the children would always look to foster mom and be nervous. They wouldn't go over and hug their mom when they were in the presence of the foster mom. She kind of had a scowling look on her face. Once we got in the counseling room, they made their little statement about what foster mom had told them. And then after that, they were happy to see their mom.
Okay. And was that pretty much the norm on each visit? Is that kind of what you observed on each visit as far as the kids' behavior?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've gone from April through June. At any point in time, from the beginning to the end of these dates, did any of these kids ever show any affection toward their mother in the presence of this foster mother?
Only as we were leaving the therapy session, there would be discussion, this, "Hey mom, can we go get a sucker?" I always reward with a sucker after the visit, and they would say, "Hey mom, can we go get a visit?" So they were still in that mode of clinging and being close to their biological mom. And foster mom would just sort of want to hurry up and rush them out of the office. So that was when they would be affectionate with their mother in front of foster mom.
Okay. And so at the end of these, you had 7 separate sessions, correct?
That's correct.
And it appears, I didn't look at a calendar, but it appears to be weekly sessions.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And so at the end of this, did you make a recommendation?
I did.
And what was your recommendation?
Okay, under plans, goals, and recommendation. Under recommendation, I said move the reunification process to unsupervised time with mother.
Yeah. And you had let the department know about this, is that correct?
I did, yes, sir.
Okay, did the department eventually reach out to you and say, "Hey, these folks aren't coming to see you anymore"?
Well, no, they didn't. Maria Lopez reached out to me.
Okay, and they changed counselors?
That's what she had informed me of. Yes, sir.
Okay, did you try to reach out to the department as to why that was happening?
Yes, sir. I emailed a couple of times the caseworker and her supervisor, and they never responded. I sent them my notes.
Okay, your notes showing your progress notes, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and as far as your scheduling was concerned, to the best of your knowledge, the last time that you saw Maria was on June 1st of 2023. Had you already had her scheduled for the following week to come in? Do you know? Her and the kids?
Let me check real quick. I'm not positive. Okay. I probably did. I know at that point we were making appointments. Yeah, that next week on June 6th, I had her an appointment.
Okay. Did you tend to schedule each week that you'd schedule the following week after a visit? Is that the way you normally do it?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. So where I'm leading with this was there a problem, Dr. Jennings, in your scheduling that would preclude you from consistently seeing Maria and these children?
No, not at all.
You were always able to do that as far back as April 13th, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
And so you cannot surmise, I suppose, why in the world they switched counselors after you had made a
Objection to the
recommendation.
wording of the question, Your Honor. I understand what he's saying, but it's the texture of the question that I'm objecting to.
Overrule. He's asking what he surmises, and if he says, I don't know why they did it, that's an answer. So you can answer, Dr. Jennings.
Okay. I don't know why they changed, other than, eventually I called Micah Smith, who is in charge of all of them. And she told me the caseworker wanted another opinion.
Objection to what Micah Smith said, Your Honor. Hearsay.
I'm sorry. What else? Somebody else said something.
Sorry.
No. Okay. That's sustained.
Dr. Jennings, it looks like June 2nd, 2023, a reunification schedule was filed with the court. And I had provided you with a copy of that.
Yes, sir.
Have you seen that before?
I have not.
Okay. With respect to, as far as what Maria has done in this case, she has completed everything that's been asked of her. Is that correct?
Mr. Jackson, I was busy trying to write on the last comment. On June 2nd, what did you say was it filed, did you say?
It was a reunification schedule that was filed on June 2nd.
Okay, so I have not seen that either, obviously, so I wanted to be sure I got a reunification schedule filed on June 2nd?
Yes.
Okay, you go ahead. I wanted to be sure I got that correct.
Yes, sir. So Dr. Jennings, in my motion that I sent to you this morning, I'd set forth all the services and the dates that Maria had completed on. And you were aware of that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So as far as this type of schedule, on the basis of what Maria Lopez has accomplished and completed during the pendency of this case, is this a schedule that you think that's in the best interest of the children?
No, not at all.
Okay, would you explain why?
Well, one, it's going to go over a year and they would have to file an extension. Secondly, she has, since 2022, since the beginning of 2023, she's been clean and sober as reported by St. Francis to me. She's had a home, she's had a job. There's no confounding issues, no boyfriends hanging around. This is a model client and they're just slow walking this. It makes no sense to me. And they can't give me a reason. I keep, trying to figure out why this client has gone on this long and with no problems. No positive drug tests. She's got home stability, job stability, and it's gone on, since I believe March of 2023. In 2022, she got out of rehab. And so, they're just taking way too long I've never seen it ever take this long. And I've been doing this since 2005.
So during the time that you've spent with these kids, whether Maria was present with them or not, did these kids ever express to you in any form, fashion, or shape that they did not want to go home to their mother?
Only that foster mom told them that. They don't have to.
Okay. Under your recommendation, you just moved the reunification process on to unsupervised time with mother. You didn't set forth any perimeters on that, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, would there be a problem with kids being around, if they're with Maria unsupervised, would there be a problem with her having her family around?
Having whose family around?
Maria's family.
Okay, her children or her mom or what?
No, like her mom's, dad's, aunts, uncles.
I don't know those people. Typically St. Francis or CPS would do a little background check as long as that person was, not involved in problematic behavior. Yeah, it wouldn't be a problem.
Okay. And on that, the reunification plan that I provided you, it seems like based on discussions that we've had that right now she's in stage 3 of that reunification plan. And it seems to me that based on the progress that's made, that she should have been in stage 5 weeks ago.
Objection leading, Your Honor.
4 p.m.
Overruled. It's not his, well, it is his witness. Sustained.
All right, let me ask it this way, Dr. Jennings. Do you think that Maria Lopez should be in stage 5 of the reunification plan?
Definitely. I mean, when I submitted this report back in June, she should have already been doing, picking up her kids, bringing them to the therapy. I would have suggested at that point, had they asked me, at least 4 or 5 hours that day. And then typically within a few weeks, you move to overnights when they do these reunifications. That's the way they've done them for years.
Okay. All right. And do you think that it would be in the best interest to go ahead and to ask the court to expedite the reunification of these kids with their mother today?
No, most definitely. Yeah, it's long overdue.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
All right. Mr. Michelson.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have a couple of questions. Doctor, in your opinion, were there any obstacles regarding the visits prior to Ms. Lopez changing counselors?
Not that I know of. I mean, we scheduled, she came, if that's what you're referring to.
Yes.
Yeah, she came. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in your professional opinion, can you explain the emotional conflict between the children with regard to their foster mother and Ms. Lopez?
Sure. The children have been with this foster mother, 9, 10, 11 months. She's been there for them, I would assume for birthdays, school letting out, all the major events in their life. And the children would naturally develop a bond with the foster mom. That's especially if the foster mom's doing what she's supposed to do, connect with the kids. So that's why they would, for almost a whole year, they're depending on foster mom to tell them stuff. The problem with Maria is, she's like always in these cases, they're told, do not discuss these things with your children. Do not discuss or promise anything as far as birthdays or what you can do. So, the children would naturally wonder why their mother was only around in a very limited way, while foster mom is there all the time, fixing every scrape, every bump, every birthday. And, after a year, the children are naturally going to look to foster mom for things, just part of what happens.
Thank you. Is there any particular reason why the court should give weight to the expression of the children in those circumstances?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you clearly. Should the court delay what?
I'm sorry. Is there any, in your professional opinion, is there any reason to give weight to the children's expression? You indicated that when the children said, we don't have to come to live with you. Is there any reason to give weight to that statement?
I think you give weight to everything in context. And the context was they said, foster mom told us.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Grant.
Dr. Jennings, on the first visit after the foster mom asked to speak to you, without telling me what was said, did you leave that conversation with any concerns?
Yes, I did.
And what were those concerns that you developed following the conversation?
Okay. Without really saying what we talked about, I mean, I told her how the process works with reunification, and she just shook her head no, like she didn't want to hear that. And so my concerns were that I felt she had an agenda. And again, that's just my speculation. Because after that, she never wanted to talk to me again, really. She sort of had made up her mind what she wanted to have.
Object, Your Honor. He's already said it was speculation, so I'm objecting to speculation.
Sustained.
Did you have any concern regarding the process of reunification and the support the children would need after that conversation?
Yes, I had worries that they were going to ignore my, recommendations, which they did, and that they would not, give Miss Lopez time, unsupervised with her children.
Okay. Now, you made a comment during one of Mr. Jackson's questions regarding mom had been sober and had not had boyfriends around. Do you recall that comment?
Yes, ma'am.
So would it be normal in this case for the children to be concerned about boyfriends being around when they're at home?
In most cases, when there has been domestic violence or something like that, or drug use, children will be concerned if an abusive person is around. But in this case, according to the caseworker, according to Ms. Lopez, that was not an issue. So those created ideal situation for the kids to come home.
So if the judge were to order today that no person that Maria is in a dating relationship were to be in the home with the children for certain circumstances, would you consider that a helpful caveat to reunification?
Yes, I would.
And is that something that through your experience with this case that Maria has and will continue to do, in your opinion?
That's been my observation. I believe she would.
Okay. And have you found that Maria is willing to be protective of the children at this point?
As best I can in the visits I've had, and through her lengthy behavior, that she's doing everything the state wants her to do. Yes.
Okay. When she's with the children, is she attentive to their needs in your presence?
Yes, ma'am. Very much so.
Okay. And if the children have developed a significant bond with foster mom, would it be natural for us to expect that they might not want to go home necessarily?
It's a very common occurrence.
Okay. And that can be navigated with therapy and reunification processes, correct?
Correct. If both parties will work it out and not try to pull the children in one direction.
Okay. And through your reunification process, isn't it normal that you implement a process of some unsupervised time directly prior to or following therapy so that you can observe the children in that state of being unsupervised with the parent?
Typically, I work that out with the caseworker, so it's not really me particularly making a recommendation. It's the team deciding how the reunification will go forward. And I recommend before and after therapy, because then I'm able to bring the child in right after a visit, say mom and them are alone together for 2 or 3 hours, restaurant, park. I bring the kids in by themselves. Mom waits out in the reception area. I ask the children, how did the visit go? What did you and mom talk about? And, I make sure it's appropriate. So that's typically where I would make a recommendation.
And you haven't had an opportunity to do that in this case, have you?
No, I have not.
Would you like to have that opportunity to do that?
Yes, I feel it's needed to complete this case.
Okay. And so would you agree with me if I said children who are in a good, healthy foster home may sometimes express and desire, this is my new place where I want to live because this is great?
Yes, that happens all the time. Very
okay.
common.
And how is it best to deal with that when children have imprinted and embedded that much in their foster environment?
Well, the key is to get the foster parent to agree not to say negative things to the children. If you can get the foster parent to say positive things and encourage the process, then the children feel empowered to re-embrace their mom. But that's not the case here. That's not what's happening.
Okay. And if the children are resistant to hearing those things from a foster parent, you still have to say those things and be that encouraging voice, correct?
Correct.
And is it normal when the foster mom first starts saying that children might be resistant to hear that and feel like foster mom is now abandoning?
I don't think they would feel like foster mom's abandoning them. I think they feel relief that they get to actually embrace their mom in front of foster mom. And ideally, if I can facilitate a meeting with mom, foster mom, and the children, that's a perfect setting where foster mom encourages, hey, go play with your mom, and they all sit around. And that would be an ideal setting.
Are you aware whether any of that integration has happened in this case?
I do not know. They've kind of just cut me out of the deal.
Okay. Is it in the best interest of children to change therapists so suddenly with no preparation and no explanation to them?
Yeah, no, that's not good. You want a transition point, but in fairness to Mr. Milam, he had been their individual counselor, but not their family counselor. I had been that. And so that was sort of an abrupt cutoff where they had gotten used to, playing games in my office and doing things there, eating their meal there. That there was a transition taking place.
Did you and is he Dr. or Mr. Milam? I'm sorry, I don't.
As my understanding, he's a licensed professional counselor. So
Okay.
not.
And have the two of you had any conversations, transitionary or otherwise, after the change in therapy?
No, we have not. He has not reached out to me.
And would that have been helpful to you or possibly the children if that were to occur or would have occurred at that time?
Yes, that would be helpful. And the casework supervisor had said she had planned on facilitating such a meeting, but it never happened.
Okay. Do you think that there's any danger to the safety or physical or mental health of these children if they began unsupervised reunification with their mother quicker than you see on the plan there that's at phase 3?
No, I think it would be helpful.
Okay. And so you do not predict any adverse effects from that at this point based on what you've observed?
Other than just the children worrying about how foster mom's going to feel about all this.
Okay. And how should that be handled if that's the case with these kids?
Well, as I said before, it would be nice if I could get foster mom and biological mom, myself, all together in a room and along with the children and have foster mom agree to be encouraging. That would be very helpful.
Okay. And so do you have any issues with overnights with mom at this point for the children?
No, other than typically you'd want at least maybe a couple of 4-hour visits, at least one where she takes them and goes to a restaurant or a park or something of that effect, deals with that well, then go to an overnight.
Okay. And that could be accomplished with a couple of visits possibly, but you would want to check the situation after a couple of visits and see if we were good to go, correct?
Correct. Something like Friday night or Friday afternoon, 4 hours, Saturday, 4 or 5 hours, keep them Sunday, decide if you're going to return them to the foster parent or not.
I see. Okay. Pass the witness, Judge.
All right, Mr. Alley.
Dr. Jennings, you have not been contracted to be the children's counselor from the beginning of this case, correct?
They're not their individual counselor, correct?
Your contract and your request from the St. Francis Mysteries or the department was to do a family counseling between Ms. Lopez and the children to begin the reunification process to build that relationship.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I'll pass with you, Sherman.
Right. All right. Anyone have further questions of Dr. Jennings? No. Dr. Jennings, I've got just a couple of questions for you based on your doing the family therapy with the kids and the mother. Did you see any signs that it would be a danger to their physical health or safety to begin unsupervised visits and start reunification with their mother?
I don't think it would be harmful at all, Your Honor.
And then I think you've answered my next question. Did you see anything that would indicate it would be contrary to the children's best interest to begin reunification with their mother?
I did not see anything contrary, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else have further questions for the doctor?
Judge.
Judge, just one question for Dr. Jennings.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Jennings, again, I just want to reiterate, if you were to pick up this family counseling again, your schedule is such that it will allow you to counsel this family consistently with that on a week-by-week basis?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. If no one else has anything further, can Dr. Jennings be excused?
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
No objection.
No objection.
Okay,
No
Dr.
objection.
Jennings, thank you for your testimony. I'll remove you so you can go back to your afternoon's business.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Uh-huh.
And Maria, as far as the services that you've completed, I mean, you have completed everything that CPS and the court has ordered you complete. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as far as your sobriety is concerned, have you maintained sobriety
Yes.
since when?
September 27th, 2022.
Okay,
Okay, and then as far as the counseling sessions, you're always able to attend all the counseling sessions?
Yes.
With Dr. Jennings
Yes.
and this Mr. Milam as well, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, you were present when Dr. Jennings testified, is that correct?
Yes.
And you had an occasion, did you ever have an occasion to witness how the kids act when they're around the foster mother?
Yes.
Was there a difference in their behavior versus when they were around you?
Yes.
What did you observe?
When I was with my kids, they were, they were like, "Mommy, I love you." They were giving me hugs, we're playing and everything. But then as soon as we would leave, they would they act like they didn't even know me. They would run to her and they didn't even want to talk to me or say anything. It was like a whole different story. They just act like they didn't know me.
Now, you had picked up counseling you and the kids last saw Dr. Jennings back on June 1st. Yeah, June 1st, right?
Yes.
And then you picked up the counseling with this Mr. Milam, is that correct?
Yes.
When was your first appointment with him?
June 8th.
Okay. And have those been weekly sessions?
Yes.
And as far as those sessions are concerned, how are the kids with you with Mr. Milam? Is it any different than Dr. Jennings?
No, they're still playing with me. Maya's in my lap. Me and the kids are playing games. They're always mommy. Everything's the same.
Did Dr. Jennings, when you were seeing him, was there ever an issue with him being able to schedule you all for appointments?
No.
Okay. All right. So you were provided with a reunification schedule. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this is the one we've been talking about this morning that was filed on June 2nd.
Yes.
And on that schedule, I noticed the one that was filed is that you hadn't signed that, correct?
No.
Okay. And would you explain why you have failed to sign this reunification schedule?
I asked because on the reunification, they said that I have to sign for the DP, the discipline paper form. And I asked Samara to send it to me, and she still hasn't sent it to me. So I don't want to sign it without viewing the form.
And you're referring to the DFPS discipline policy?
Yes.
And so you wanted to read that policy before you sign this?
Yes.
Because you didn't want to mess up anything, is that correct?
I wanted to read it before I signed it.
Okay. And did you make a request for that policy?
Yes, I did.
And to date, have you received that policy?
No.
You still, and has that been weeks ago that you made that request?
Yes, it's been weeks ago.
Okay. Are you currently in a dating relationship?
No, I am single.
Okay. And have you been single throughout this?
Yes.
Throughout this case? And do you think that, are you wanting your kids to come home?
Yes. Yes.
And are your wishes and what you're asking for, in your opinion, consistent with what the kids are wanting?
Yes.
Tell them.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
And do you think that would be in their best interest?
Yes.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Michelson?
Just one question, Your Honor. Ms. Lopez, can you tell me why you switched counselors from Dr. Jennings to Dr. Milo?
I didn't switch them. The CPS told me that they were going to change counselors, and I called Stevie Jennings' office to let them know, and they didn't know nothing about it, and so I didn't know nothing about it.
Okay. Did you consult that change with your attorney?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions.
All right, Ms. Grant?
Maria, you understand in this case that the children can develop an attachment for a foster mom, correct?
Yes.
And you don't have a problem with that on its face, correct?
No.
You're just ready for your children to come home to you and be at home. Is that right?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
If the children have any concern regarding you dating someone, would you be willing to not involve the children in dating relationships or introduce them to anyone who you may meet in the future?
Yes.
And is it possible does anyone else live in your home besides you?
No.
And so if the children were returned to you, it would just be you and them residing at your home, correct?
Yes.
Have you had any unsupervised visitation with your children yet?
Yes.
And how did that go?
It went well. We went to the splash pad, and then we went to the movies.
Okay. And if the children have referred to those visits as good memories, would you like to do that more often and immediately?
Yes.
Okay. And would you be willing to take the children to Steve Jennings' office following some further unsupervised contact so that some family therapy can happen after the next couple of visits?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have proper transportation for the children?
Yes, ma'am.
And where are the children? The children are off school for the summer, correct?
Yes.
And are you prepared to enroll them in school if they're returned to you prior to school starting?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know when school starts in your area?
August 16th.
Okay. Do you know when enrollment is by chance?
No.
Okay. What grades will the kiddos be in this coming year?
Carlitos, he would be in 2nd grade. Maya will be in 1st, and Avalie will be enrolling in preschool.
Okay. And if the children are returned to you, have you sought out preschool accommodations for Avalie?
Yes, I actually have them for the First Baptist Church. They have daycare, and they also do preschool programs.
Okay. And your computer kind of cut out. Carlito will be in 1st, and what grade will Maya be in?
No, Carlitos will be in 2nd, and Maya will be in 1st.
Maya will be in 1st. She's a little taller than him, so it mixes me up every time.
Yeah.
And do you have the ability to keep the children up to date on all their medical appointments?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any concern about your ability to keep these children physically and mentally healthy and safe?
No.
Do you understand why the children were removed in the beginning of this case in 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that your service plan, as it's been completed, has dealt with all of those issues?
Yes.
And after your service plan was completed, have you been asked to work any additional services based on further recommendations?
No.
Okay. And if the children and you and the foster mom need to meet with Mr. Jennings, are you willing to do or Dr. Jennings, are you willing to do that?
Yes.
And are you willing to, for the health of the children, ensure that even when they're moved with you, that they can keep a positive position in regard to foster mom as well? Meaning you have no ill will or bad blood with foster mom, correct?
No.
But you understand that foster mom did a lot for these kiddos, and that's what we need foster parents for, right?
Yes, ma'am. I'm very grateful.
Okay. And if the kids were returned to you and they were missing foster mom, would you be okay with them calling her on the phone or whatever way Dr. Jennings recommended dealing with that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any opinion as to the effectiveness of family therapy with Dr. Jennings versus family therapy with the therapist, Mr. Milam?
No, but I really do consider Dr. Jennings.
Okay, you like Dr. Jennings, but both have been effective and positive for you and the children. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Okay, pass the witness, Judge.
Mr. Alvey?
Ms. Lopez, have you read the family plan that was presented by Ms. Duran to you?
Yes.
And that plan has in place that the children be returned to you prior to school starting.
Yes.
And you're in the process of working through the stages of that plan.
Yes.
and you've had 1 4-hour unsupervised visit,
Yes.
and you have another one planned this either today or next week.
Next Thursday.
Okay. I'll pass with Ms. Young.
Mr. Alvin, when you said family plan, do you mean the reunification schedule? That sounded a lot like her plan of service.
Well, and I apologize, Your Honor. To be clear, this is the reunification schedule that I'm talking about, Ms. Lopez.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else have further questions for Ms. Lopez?
We've got a couple, Judge.
Okay.
Ms. Lopez, as far as your home is concerned, you have beds, clothes, blankets, food, everything that,
Yes.
that you need for the kids?
Yeah, I do.
And I believe CASA came over recently and took a look at the home. Is that correct?
Yes, they did.
Has the department been over to look at your home?
Yes.
Okay. And did they make any recommendations as far as things that you needed to do differently or to add?
No.
Okay. They were satisfied with it?
Yes.
All right. And are you asking this court today to kindly expedite, speed up this reunification process between you and your kiddos?
Yes.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anyone else? Ms. Lopez, what was the date you said that school starts?
August 16th.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, then, Mr. Jackson, do you have any further witnesses?
No further witnesses, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Alvey, any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. I would call Samara Duran. Ms. Duran, you're the St. Francis Ministries permanency specialist for this child,
Yes, I am.
or these children, excuse me. And how long have you been their permanency specialist?
Since the beginning of March 2023.
And were you involved when the court ordered some family therapy between the children and their mother?
I believe I took over the day before, but I did not do that hearing.
Okay. But you did make sure that there was some family therapy done between the children and their mother as per the court orders?
Yes, sir. I actually attempted the day after court or the day of court to set up family therapy with Mr. Jennings. I attempted that for a couple of weeks by both email and phone call and could not get a response from his agency. So I looked into the services of Dirk Milam, and he was going to be able to start those sessions the very next week. And when I had relayed that to Miss Lopez, she said that was fine. A couple of hours later, I received a phone call from Mr. Jackson asking why she was being referred to someone else. I had gone off the clock and was out of town at that time. And when I returned to work on Monday, there was an email in my inbox asking about it.
All right. Well, let's slow down for just a second. You made sure that we had accomplished the counseling that was required.
Correct.
And then were you aware that Dr. Jennings had made a recommendation to you or for the children?
Yes.
And after his counseling sessions were completed, well, first of all, did you stop those counseling sessions prior to them being completed?
I did not.
Okay. So he did what you had requested that he do.
Yes, sir.
All right. And did you use his recommendations in your next steps?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And who has been the children's individual counselor for some time now?
Mr. Dirk Milam.
And after Dr. Jennings gave you his recommendations, did you provide those to Mr. Milam?
Yes, sir. We spoke on the phone a couple of times.
And did you and Mr. Milam come up with a plan that followed the recommendations from Dr. Jennings?
Yes, sir.
And is that the reunification plan that you have filed with the court?
Not necessarily. Mr. Milam and I spoke regarding reunification on the phone. My plan was, I'm so sorry, I just went blank. We came up with this plan, my director, my supervisor, the case aide that watches the visits, the worker that had covered prior to me taking over, all together to do what we felt was best for the children at the time.
So it wasn't just something that came from Dr. Jennings. It wasn't something that just came from Dr. or from Mr. Milam. This was a group effort that y'all reached together.
Yes, sir.
And the family reunification plan that y'all put together has the children returned to Miss Lopez prior to school starting on, where the return would be on February the 11th and school starts on, the return would be August the 11th and school starts August the 16th.
That is correct.
Where is Miss Lopez on her family reunification plan at this time?
Ms. Lopez is receiving 2 hours of supervised visitation at the St. Francis Visitation House, and then 4 hours of unsupervised visitation following that. 6 hours total.
What was the thought process or the reasoning behind slowing the reunification down from the time that Dr. Jennings recommended that they begin unsupervised visits?
When I have conversations with the children about the return to their home, they are very adamant that they do not want to return. And they talk about some experiences that they had in the past. One of Mom's boyfriends tying them up in the closet and pretended to be Chucky on the outside. They watched her have sexual intercourse with multiple partners. So they are very skeptical about wanting to return to the home.
Have you included post and pre visitation counseling with Mr. Milam?
Yes.
So the things that Dr. Jennings discussed that he would like to do, they're being done with the counselor that the children recognize.
That's correct.
Today, are you asking that the court continue Ms. Lopez on the schedule that was developed by your team?
Yes, I am.
Pass witness.
Jackson?
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Wren, you've been in this court hearing since it started, have you not?
Yes, I have.
And you've got to hear all the testimony of Dr. Jennings, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're aware that I'm still not clear on why we switched counselors, because Dr. Jennings testified that at their last meeting on June 1st of 2023, he'd already scheduled them to come back in the following week, and yet y'all moved them. Why is that?
And to include the children's therapist recommendation in the FRE schedule as ordered by the court, Mr. Jennings was not the children's therapist. Mr. Milam was.
Okay, so this went on. So Jennings had seen the kiddos and the mother 3 times in April of 2023, and 3 times in May of 2023, and 1 time in June of 2023 for 7 separate sessions. And you're saying now that we're just now realizing that he's not the family counselor?
Objection to that's not the testimony, Your Honor. And that's a misstatement of the facts.
Just ask the question rather than state the question, Mr. Jackson.
Okay. When did you discover that Mr. Jennings wasn't the family counselor?
I didn't discover that Mr. Jennings wasn't the family counselor. He is not the children's individual therapist. And it was my understanding that the order of the court was to include the therapist recommendation of the children, not the family therapist.
Okay. And so you said that Dr. Jennings had done everything that he needed to do. Is that correct?
That he had the counseling session. I'm sorry, can you re-ask the question?
Well, your testimony is that at the last time that Maria and the kids met with Dr. Jennings at that last sessions, then y'all had switched because Dr. Jennings had done everything that he needed to do.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the word switch. There was never a switch. Mr. Milam has been the child's counselor for the length of the case. That's what the testimony is. There's not a switch.
Well, the testimony was that there was a switch made as far as the family counseling. It was switched from Dr. Jennings to Mr. Milam, so that's overruled.
Yes, I did switch from Dr. Jennings to Mr. Milam because he is the children's therapist and he had seen them one-on-one. But
your testimony was that Dr. Jennings had done everything that he needed to do. True or false?
True.
if Dr. Jennings had done everything that he needed to do, then why were these kids placed in family therapy with another therapist?
Because he is the children's individual counselor and the children were seeing him individually. They felt comfortable with him.
Did they feel comfortable with Dr. Jennings?
They advised me that they felt more comfortable with Dirk.
Did they feel comfortable with Dr. Jennings?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you talked about all these reasons that the kids don't want to return, the things that they'd witnessed and everything. After you had found that out from the kids, did you pick up the phone and give Dr. Jennings a call about what these kids are telling you and how that could be?
No, Mr. Jackson, I couldn't get Dr. Jennings on the phone.
Okay. Did you send him an email in that regard?
I did send him some emails and he would not return them.
Did you tell him in that email what it was that these kids were telling you, as you just told the court?
I would have to look in my emails and I don't have access to that at this time.
Okay. Have you had an occasion to read Dr. Jennings' progress notes?
Yes, I have.
Have you had access to Mr. Milam's progress notes?
I haven't received notes, but I have spoken to him on the phone multiple times.
So based on, strike that. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Michelson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Based on your testimony of the children, did you talk about those concerns with Mr. Milo?
Yeah, yes, I have.
Okay. And is it your impression he's addressing those issues?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is it your testimony today that the transition plan should be delayed?
I believe that the transitional plan should continue on target as it is.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Grant.
Samara, can you explain to me the reasoning behind such a slow transition plan?
Yes, because when I spoke with the children regarding their reunification and what things looked like with visits with their mom and how they felt about going back home with their mom, they were very adamant that they did not want to return. Following the beginning talk of the schedule, I sat down with the kids and kind of talked about what it would look like and age appropriately explained to them when something bad happens and you follow all the rules, you get something good in return. And that was Miss Lopez had made some mistakes and she had followed all the rules, and the good thing that was going to happen was they were going to be returned to her home. And during that visit, Carlito and Maya cried in my lap for 20 minutes because they did not want to return to their mother.
Okay, and that happens sometimes when kids are bonded with their foster families, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
And so we still have to return children to their biological families when we feel it's safe to do so, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, can you explain to me the reasoning behind still doing any supervised visitation with a mother who's already achieved 4 hours of unsupervised visits?
So that we could keep eye on these visitations, because the children report that sometimes their mother screams and yells at them and makes them cry during their visitations. So we did just want to keep an extra eye for a little while just to ensure that this transition was happening slowly, surely, and okay.
Okay, what portion, if a mother's getting 6 hours with her children each stage of the visitation plan, how does 2 hours of that being supervised prevent anything from going wrong in the other 4 hours?
It doesn't necessarily.
Okay, so couldn't we just go ahead and proceed to step 5 and allow the mother fully unsupervised visitation and do away with the supervised portions at this point?
I think that it's in the children's best interest of their emotional and mental health that we continue on the path that we've created.
Okay, how is 2 hours of supervised in a phase assisting with their mental health per se?
I would advocate again that the children have shown that they have said that they don't want to go home. They've given multiple reasons. Every time we talk about it, they are coming around to it a little more slowly. But it does help that we are able to watch the interaction between Maria and her children and ensure that everything is going the way that it should.
Do you feel more qualified to make that recommendation than Dr. Jennings?
No, ma'am, I do not.
And if Dr. Jennings has already made a recommendation beyond that, what reason do you have to disagree with his recommendation?
Because he was not the children's individual counselor and he was not seeing the children individually.
So until you hear it from someone besides someone who has seen the children independent of Maria, you don't agree with it?
I think it's important that someone that sees the children independent of Maria can watch those visitations so that we can watch how the children are doing with Maria versus we can also talk about how these things are going when she's not around. And he has seen one-on-one how the kids are doing with Maria.
Okay. But he has no problem with any unsupervised visits, correct?
No, he does not at this time.
Okay. How many, on the schedule that you have created, stage 1 was another month of 2 hours supervised visitation, correct?
That's correct.
Why was that stage 1 when they were already doing that?
I worked closely with my director, supervisor, and the people that had been working on the case prior to me.
Objection, Judge, non-responsive. My question was,
She's
why
trying to answer the question, Your Honor.
Let her make her objection, Ms. Stroudy. Your objection, Ms. Grant?
my objection is, my question was why they started at a stage that they already were at. And her answer was regarding stuff with her supervisor. I just want to know why they started where they already were.
Okay. Just ask the question again so it's clear on the record, and then
Okay.
Ms. answer the question you're asked.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Samara, why did the first 2 weeks of the schedule that you created just repeat what we were already doing?
Because she had been going to therapeutic visitation with Mr. Jennings and had not been having extra time with St. Francis. So we were allowing 1 hour of therapeutic visitation as well as 2 extra hours of supervised visitation with St. Francis.
Okay. Then when we got to, your schedule also includes 2 stage 1s. Do you realize that?
Yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am. I apologize.
Okay. Why? So this is actually not even a 5-stage plan at this point. It's a 6-stage plan, correct?
That's correct.
So was that just a typo and it was intended to be 6 phases, or was stage 1 always intended to be a month long?
It was split up into 2 parts. Let me pull that up in front of me because I do not have it right this second so that I can review the differences.
Okay. Well, I can represent to you that the first 2 weeks was 2 hours of supervised visitation each week. And the second 2 weeks of stage 1 was 4 hours of supervised visitation. That's a lot of supervision. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then when you went to stage 2, you wanted 2 hours of unsupervised visitation, and then 4 hours of visitation supervised by St. Francis. That's stage 2, correct?
That's correct.
So more supervised visitation. She's completed all of that, correct?
Yes, ma'am. We're on
Okay.
stage 3.
Stage 3 includes 4 hours of unsupervised and 2 hours of supervised. So more supervision on stage 3, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, how much supervision do we need before we can let Maria be unsupervised with her children?
I would argue that she is supervised with, or she is unsupervised with her children. We are just trying to ensure that the parental interaction with the children is still going as it should.
Okay. So do you still think we need more supervised visitation going forward?
I would say for the next week, and then after that, it goes to, I believe, overnight visitation with their mother in their home.
So it's going to go to an overnight before it goes to completely unsupervised?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that make good sense in your opinion?
Yes, ma'am, it does, because I helped make the schedule.
Okay. So I would ask you, would it make more sense to go ahead and get into fully unsupervised for a week before we go into overnights and just advance this plan up?
It couldn't hurt.
Okay. And then stage 5 is where they're back in her care, correct? Stage 6,
Yes,
stage 5,
ma'am.
however you want to call it. It's the last stage, correct?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so if we went ahead and started now with fully unsupervised and got her into her overnights, couldn't we get them home a week sooner to give them a little more time to get ready for school to start on the 16th, maybe go get their school clothes, get their school supplies, and have at least a week of summer left with their mother before we get right back into the school year? Can we
Yes,
do
ma'am.
that? Okay. And in fact, would you agree with me or not that that would actually make more sense to give them extra time to settle into a routine before school starts and put less stress on the family?
Yeah.
I would say it makes more sense so they can get a little more settled in, but the entirety of the making this plan was so that the children could be slowly brought back in because they were so scared and not wanting to go home. This plan
Sure.
was made with the best interest of the children in mind.
Sure. And now that we are navigating the plan, we can adjust and keep moving, right? If we need to.
That's correct.
Okay. Pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Does anybody else have any further questions for Ms. Duran?
No, Your Honor.
I just have one question, Your Honor.
Okay.
Ms. Duran, have you ever observed the interactions between Ms. Lopez and the children?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
Anyone else? All right. Ms. Duran, have any of the children ever told you that the foster mother says we don't have to go home to mom?
No, sir, they have not.
And I'm not asking you to answer anything the foster mother's told you, but has anything the foster mother told you about how the children act when you don't see them, did any of that factor into your reunification schedule?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, then, Mr. Jackson, do you have, I'm sorry, that was your witness, wasn't it, Mr. Allen?
It was, Your Honor.
Any other witnesses?
I would call Dirk Milam, Your Honor.
All right.
It's been a couple of months. I apologize. I don't have my notes right in front of me, but it's been ongoing since back in June.
Okay. Was it before that or was it just after in June?
I would like to say the beginning of June. I don't have that information right in front of me. So I can't be totally accurate about that.
Okay. Now, Mr. Milam, in your counseling sessions, have you determined that there are any concerns with the children being returned to their mother, Ms. Lopez?
Yeah. Would you restate that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. In your counseling sessions, first of all, have you counseled with the children individually or just with the family?
I have counseled the children individually, and we've also had some family sessions with Maria and her kids.
And have you determined that there are any concerns with returning the children directly to their mother immediately?
I have not seen anything in my dealings with them in family therapy or in with my individual dealings with the kids that would lead me to believe that they could not be returned to their kids. Or they could not be returned to the mother. Sorry about that.
Would you have any concerns today if the children were returned for a monitored return to their mother either this week or next week?
No, I believe that could happen in a monitored, situation.
Would you continue to want to see the children after or strike that? Have you been doing any pre and post visitation counseling with the children?
Well, when they go to do their visitations it's been Thursday, and that's when I've done the family therapy, and the kids have been coming to my office to do their therapy on Monday. So it hasn't been like I don't see the kids for their individual therapy right after their visits, no.
Would you be open if the judge was to continue the children in some individual counseling after they've been returned to their mother?
Of course, yes.
And do you think that would be in their best interest?
Yes.
I'll pass witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Jackson.
Your Honor, no questions.
Okay. Mr. Michelson.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Grant.
Just one, Judge. Sir, would it be a good idea for the children to be returned to their mother for a little bit of time with summer left so that they can settle in prior to school beginning?
Yes, I understand that. There needs to be, a period of time so that they can get situated and get ready for the school year. I mean, I don't disagree with that. And I just, as long as there's some type of a monitored situation so you can make sure things are going smoothly, that the kids are transitioning back smoothly, and it's a safe situation for them.
Are you aware of the children being concerned because of the history of this case about mom having a boyfriend?
Yes, I am aware of that.
And would you agree that that could be solved by the judge just ordering that no gentleman with which the mother may date in the future should be around the children until an appropriate time and relationship status was developed?
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. And if you continue to be the children's therapist, you will be able to follow up with them during any time they spend with their mother during the summer before school starts unsupervised, correct?
Yes, I could do that.
Okay. And it would be good for these kids to probably meet with mom and foster mom together so that we can have a healthy, unified front with the transition. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, the more communication, the better.
That way the kids don't feel like they're losing one for the other. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Anyone have further questions for Mr. Milam?
Your Honor, I do, just briefly.
Okay.
Ms. Milam, would there be any concerns on your part if Maria, once she started her unsupervised visit, if she had members of her family around the kids, as long as they pass a background check?
Yes, as long as they pass the background checks and then there's no, risk of anything there. Yes, that would be okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
All right. Anyone further?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Then, Mr. Albee, did you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, may Mr. Milam be excused.
I don't have a problem. Anyone else?
No objection.
No objection.
All right, Mr. Milam, I'll release you so you can go back to your afternoon's business. I apologize you had to wait in the waiting room so long, but we appreciate your testimony, and
Okay.
I will release you now.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. Have a good day.
You too. Have a good weekend.
Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you.
then, Ms. Grant, recommendations?
Your Honor, I'd recommend that the mother immediately get 2 more unsupervised visitations up to 6 hours, and that the second of those visits be with Mr. Milam and the foster mother to return the children to the mother with an adequate length of time that they can settle in with summer with their mother and get ready for school to start. And that the mother be ordered that no person that she has a dating relationship with be in the home with the children until such time as that's appropriate, and that the children be ordered during this return to continue with their therapy with Mr. Milam until released, and that this case be considered a monitored return at this time rather than a transitioned monitored return.
Okay. Give me just a second. Anything to add?
We have no issues with Ms. Grant's recommendation. We feel that would be in the best interest of the children.
Okay. All right, then. Here's what I'm going to do. Since I have not had a chance to really read Dr. Jennings' recommendations from what is attached to the department's motion, and I have not at all seen the reunification schedule, I'm going to review those. I'll try to do it over the weekend. Then I'm going to set out a new reunification schedule that will be to be followed by all parties immediately once I've sent it to be part of the order. I'll have some other things. I'll have some other things. I'll put it in a detailed email. Leslie will appreciate that. So it will have to do, just so you know, it'll have things to do with the fact that there'll be no unrelated males around the children. until further court order, and that this monitored return will continue, and that even any related persons, adult persons that the mother intends to have the children around, the names will be given to both St. Francis and the department. It'll be things like that, but I'll set it out in a detailed order. And it will also involve continued individual counseling for the children and continued family counseling. So, okay, I appreciate y'all's patience. And this was our last hearing for the day. So we will stand in recess. Y'all have a good weekend.
Judge Graham, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The final hearing was scheduled for August 2nd. So
yeah,
it'll be a perm hearing and then we'll reschedule another perm in 4 months, or
yeah, let's do that. August 2nd. Well, that's pretty quick. Let's just leave it that way. Let's treat August 2nd as a permanency hearing, and then we'll go from there. Y'all will have to double check me on our actual dismissal date. It looks to me like I ordered the transition monitored return on May 3rd. So, but we can all agree at our next hearing when the final dismissal date is, and I'll set a final accordingly. So, okay, thank you guys.